Some of you may be surprised to find out that it is my mission in this life to convince Christian that witchcraft, the occult, and magic absolutely exist. Not just in the minds of those that practice it, not just in the minds of religious ding-dongs like myself that believe true evil actually exists, that it is dangerous and it is tangible. No, I'd like to start this episode by extending an olive branch to Christian and reading a take on witchcraft from a scientific perspective from a man named John Chapman. He writes, "Hello, I am a historian, a trained archaeologist, currently studying internet security."
What?
I know, weird, right? I'm a very scientific individual.
Mm-hmm.
I've also practiced eclectic Wicca for over 25 years.
So scientific.
Very. The main problem I see here is your basic question is rather vague. And the question was, is witchcraft real? Pretty much. Are you speaking of mysticism, shamanism, Western ceremonial magic, Kabbalah, Ouija boards, tarot, palm reading, numerology, astrology, witchcraft, etc.? Witchcraft is a Western European term that originally had to do with pre-Christian belief systems and the rituals they used as viewed and feared by early Christians. Well, still is. Now, without any doubt, 98% of what you will find on this subject on the net or Amazon is 100% crap. Now, my question to you is, are you asking about the other 2%? Are you asking for a scientific explanation as to how magic? Please note the spelling. He used a K.
That makes him an expert.
Pal. Got it.
This is definitely eclectic Wicca.
You can tell by his use of K. I can help you. Now, shamanism is another whole subject, but you may want to ponder why shamans in the Amazon, Peru, Mexico, Siberia, Africa, and Australia all use the same basic outline and approach and are all derived 100% individually from each other. Now, back to basic definitions. I use the term magic to describe the ability to influence or sense things beyond what can be defined under the normal parameter categories of the 5 basic senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. Although these can be affected by such, especially taste and smell, to me it all comes down to quantum mechanics and your view of time, i.e. universe or multiverse. 500 years ago, a flashlight would be considered magic and get you burned at the stake. In fact, I covered that last time, probably not burned at the stake, guys, so I don't know how great you are, but it's fine. Anyway, in fact, the whole concept of electricity would be considered so. Throughout history, many new technologies were considered magical or even evil or heretical. Look at Galileo with his telescope. I don't understand this. Huh?
I can't, he's dead.
Yeah. Sorry, Galileo. We can't look at your telescope. I don't understand this. It must be magic. Various reputable scientists and organizations have been studying this phenomenon for years. Again, 98% is bunk. But, that other 2%. I think that 200 years from now, most magic or psychic phenomenon, as you may choose the term, will be explained in a rational manner. The problem now is that we have cause and effect relationships that cannot be explained under existing accepted theories. There I come back to the new field of quantum mechanics. I may use Isis as the focal point of one of my rituals, meaning...
The goddess?
Yes. Meaning placing myself into a mindset, but it is the symbolism and how my own brain can focus those symbols that matters. Do I think Isis exists? No. No more so than Vishnu or Satan.
Didn't say God.
That's because God exists. Ha ha. We'll see you on the inside.
You are now entering the realm of the freaky deaky, an unsuspecting stop at the crossroads of fantasy and reality, where the frayed edges of make-believe seep into this cookie-cutter white picket world you've been led to believe is far from extraordinary. What you're about to hear are true stories.
Alleged true stories.
Christian, just... okay? Tales of the strange and inexplicable thought only to exist in film and folklore. Although difficult to accept, we do not know everything about this reality. About time or space, what lies beneath the ocean's depths. And try though we might, the unchanging truth remains. There are some things we legitimately cannot explain logically.
Folks, before we touch on that opening, Welcome back to the show. If you are new to the show, we ask one thing of you. We ask one thing of you here, and that is that you check it out in its entirety. And if you are a fan of what you hear, you slap a 5-star review on that bad boy. It really does help us grow the show out, tickle those algorithms, all that fun shit. And be sure to comment where you're listening from if you're on YouTube or any of the other platforms that allow comments. If you'd like to find us on social media, talk to us, get our opinions on stuff, or share stories of your own, you can find us at Freaky Deaky Pod pretty much across the board. Join the Facebook group where you can share memes and experiences and stories and talk about the episodes, suggest episode topics, all kinds of fun stuff. You can find that on our Facebook page, again, at Freaky Deaky Pod. You can find merch and donate to the show if that tickles your fancy over at thefreakydeaky.com. Got some of the best merch in the game, and I know that because I'm the best. Just kidding, but also kind of a not so humble brag. Anyway, this week we are talking about witchcraft. As you heard in the beginning, there's kind of an opening monologue regarding a somewhat scientific approach to witchcraft, or eclectic Wicca, I guess you could say. Christian, do you have anything to say about that?
I think this guy is kind of ridiculous.
You're even going to tear down your own? He's a scientific-minded person. And he pretty much said that everything is a focus of the mind. And his big thing, like, he was like, you can call or focus your attention on the image of Isis type thing. Like, and I'm focusing my energy in this way, but I don't believe that Isis existed or was actually a deity or any of that shit. And so...
Then why is he doing it?
Exactly. It's kind of the wool over the eyes thing, you know, like...
It sounds like he's full of shit.
Wow.
And I'll throw something out there that kind of started me thinking this.
Yes.
He had that long stream of words.
That's usually the way sentences are formed.
Where
yes.
he threw in 10 things into this description. Some big words, some small words. It didn't matter. But when you start throwing that many things at people, trying to convince them that you have some legitimacy, sometimes you don't.
Word salad is what you're saying, I believe.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's done on TV all the time.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. And it works. It does work.
So, but what you're saying is that this is someone that doesn't believe in deities or any of that stuff, but still practices somewhat ritualistic type things. So, number one, what's the point of that?
Yeah. If you're doing it from a scientific perspective, I don't think it's going to work because...
But they act like it does.
If this stuff did work, there's a part of belief in there, and there's a part of things that I don't care what you say, we still aren't able to measure. If it works, you can measure it at some point. We just don't have that technology.
If we talk about the origins of science, like what we know as modern science and stuff, isn't there somewhat, it's probably way, way, way back in the ancient days where you're talking alchemy and shit like that. But isn't there the origin of modern science is rooted somewhere in that kind of mysticism, right?
I would think that if you go, we tend to look at the Middle Ages when we're dealing with these type of things, or early science, but it goes way back before then.
Yeah.
Science is science. It's always been science, no matter what we call it. It's just how the world works.
Yeah, but if back in the day it was called witchcraft or mysticism or whatever, then, and it evolved into what we now call science.
Well, a shaman or somebody you might call a witch could do some science with the mixing of
that's exactly that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Making a soup is...
Everything is science, dude. It's kind of remarkable.
And a form of witchcraft.
Absolutely.
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
He did say quantum science
quantum
is related.
Mechanics.
Quantum mechanics is related to witchcraft, which I don't believe.
I don't know if he said it was related or if he was trying to use quantum mechanics to justify...
Yeah, that's more what I felt.
It's a stretch for sure, but...
Which I see a lot of people do now for all these weird things in the world that we're not able to figure out yet. They like to throw around quantum mechanics like it.
Well, because no one understands it, so it's really easy to get away with.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think people will throw these things around.
Because people just be like, oh, yeah, yes, of course, quantum mechanics. Nobody fucking gets it.
Anybody that comes...
8 people in the world that understand it.
Yeah, anybody that comes to me and tries to tell me they understand, last week's episode, Ghost, witchcraft,
quantum entanglement,
God and the devil. We can't figure that stuff out.
That's easy to understand, though.
It's not easy to understand.
Because you can just ask.
That's faith.
No.
That's faith.
No, dude. And that's what I'm saying. You can legitimately ask for God to open your eyes and you'll see it. It's really that simple.
But again, is that God or your brain? If you have faith, if you have faith, it is definitely God.
No.
Yes.
If you have, and I'm going to go ahead and reiterate common sense.
So you're saying people that don't believe in God don't have common sense?
Kind of, yeah.
No, that's
really,
just a belief.
It's really that.
There's no way to
that
prove
simple.
that.
Well, the thing is, this is a podcast. I don't have to be able to prove that. I can just pull shit out of my ass and be like, here we go.
Okay, as long as you admit that's what that was.
I'm not talking down to anyone that doesn't believe in God, but to me, it's 100% common sense. Looking around, and I can actually...
If you have faith, and if you're a religious person, that is exactly what you should believe.
Yes, but you keep saying the word faith like that's all I cling on to for the existence of God, but it's not. I can see it. I can 100% see it.
People that have faith can see it.
Okay, and we're back to the faith. I feel like this is going to go in a circle, so we can just cut it here. But whatever you say.
I mean, you're thinking I'm saying something bad about faith.
No, you're not saying anything bad about it. I'm telling you that there's more to it than just faith. Like, you're supposed to have faith, but for me personally,
there's more to everything than just having faith in it. Even if you get away from the God thing, there's more to it. But let's get back to witchcraft.
Yeah, let's dive into some witchcraft.
I'll tell you, I probably won't have faith in some of this, but we're going to be entertained.
Christian, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. You have had zero faith in most of what we talk about on this show, so that's not surprising. I know there's several witches that listen to this show. There's a couple things in here I'll probably pronounce wrong. If I pronounce it wrong or get the idea behind it wrong, just comment and correct it. It's that simple. I appreciate having kind of a backup squad on this because, admittedly, I'm not too knowledgeable on the ins and outs of witchcraft.
I am.
Don't listen to him. He's patronizing you guys. I promise. Listen, read between the lines of what Christian says during this episode. He's not on your side.
No, I don't know all the intricacies of it.
Yes.
But I know a little bit of the history.
Sure. So what we're going to do in this episode is I got a couple stories, and the stories that I got aren't necessarily out there terrifying stories. I got stuff that I wanted that, to me, when I read it, I was like, this seems like it proves at least the very existence of spellwork, witchcraft, all that stuff. And if a guy that is a Christian man is here trying to convince someone else of witchcraft being real, a lot of people are probably like, that's a weird hill for this guy to die on. But for me, it's a step in the right direction. Once I convince you of witchcraft, then we can open that door to all of the spiritual world outside of that. So, progression.
In case I mention it, or in case it comes up later, I just want to remind somebody or everybody here that many moons ago on this podcast, I mentioned weaponized psychology when it comes to witchcraft. And maybe we'll get back to what that means. And if we don't, just ask me on social media. I'll get into it.
Just find them and say, hey, please bore me. Bore me. With all that being aside, let's get into a story. It's called Bad Juju, and it's by a name that I cannot pronounce, but it's Leonard Noir. Nailed it. Probably not. Anyway, a family member of mine lives in Western Africa, and while it's a mixed bag of people who do and do not believe in Juju, birthplace of voodoo, so that's what it's called over there. However, and I love the name, I love the title Juju. What a fun word to say. Like Juju bees.
Not very good.
Do you think Juju bees are witchcraft?
No, they're not very good candy.
You're correct, but witchcraft is also not very good. So maybe there's a connection there. We'll find out.
The type of witchcraft
At 11. Anyway, however, there are a lot of locals that won't fuck around with it, even if they don't believe it. That's Christian too. I remember going to visit family friends who had a coconut plantation, and I was wandering around the property when I found a bunch of green wine bottles filled with what appeared to be blood or another dark liquid, and a single chicken feather poking out of the top, hanging from the trees along the property line.
I don't practice Santeria.
There you go. It was a little spooky, but I didn't go running out of there or anything. Later that evening, we went for a walk down the beach, and I saw a full whale skeleton on the beach, bleached by the sun, and it was surrounded by little wee huts. So I figured Juju was big in the surrounding village, and asked my family friend what the deal was. He confirmed that the nearby village took Juju pretty seriously, and when he was first building his home on the coconut plantation, his building supplies were constantly going missing, so he started hiring guys to watch over the supplies overnight, but they'd either tip their friends off or steal the supplies themselves. It's pretty messed up. So my friend's wife put him in touch with a local Juju shaman, and he came to do some stuff, quote-unquote stuff, around the yard. Advised my friend that everything should be taken care of shortly. So friend gets back to ordering lumber and building supplies, and again it goes missing overnight. However, the story goes that over the next month, 4 men who were known to have been involved with stealing the supplies all died or were severely injured in unconnected events. Car accidents, snake bite, mysterious illness, probably malaria, honestly. Ever since then, none of the locals came into the coconut grove without an invite, and my family friend doesn't fuck around with Juju anymore.
Why not? It worked.
Hell yeah, it worked. But it's powerful.
Also, it's Western Africa.
Sure.
Sometimes bad things happen to people there. It's not quite the world we live in, the sheltered world we live in.
Sure.
Also, one of the most recent burnings of witches, I believe, was in Western Africa.
Isn't that fun?
Within the last 10 years.
Cool.
Put them in a tire and set the tires on fire.
Put them in a tire?
A bunch of tires.
I was like, how big is the tire? But you're talking like vertically.
They just
like ring toss.
They put
all
a bunch of tires around him and set the tires on fire because they thought he was a witch or she was a witch.
Burned at the tire, no doubt.
Yeah. So people are just as big of idiots now as they've always been.
That seems kind of judgmental.
It is judgmental because that's ridiculous.
What if this quote unquote witch was going around the village and like, just being a little dick, And then what? You don't.
There's
burn
a lot of people that act like that, and that's not really what we do, and hopefully we never do again.
Sure. Hopefully. Maybe we need to do it again. A cleansing. No, just kidding. Everyone put your pitchforks down. It's fine.
I'm going to mark this as coincidence.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's the weird thing with witchcraft is a lot of the deaths that are tied to it sound an awful lot like coincidence.
Well, also, if you believe, as like in a lot of cases, people believe these things can exist. So if you think you are cursed or if you've been marked, it might be like a self-perpetuating path for the rest of your life if you believe that stuff.
There's a lot of power in, and I think a lot of what witchcraft is the power of speech.
In the mind?
Yeah, there's some of that. Like, I know a lot of people think, like, that's your intention. And if your intention is wrong, then it's not. I don't think it's all that. I think a lot of it has to do with speech, language, speaking things. You know what I mean? Like, you can, quote unquote, curse someone just by yelling at them or something like that, or like talking down to them, and maybe we don't visually see it, but you take a piece of that person when you say that, if they allow you to.
And I think we all do this.
Yes.
Some more than others.
Mm-hmm. I do it often. But I'm not proud of it, but I definitely talk shit nonstop.
Who do you think we curse the most in our lives?
Ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if we're using words.
I'm so stupid. Damn it. Yeah.
One of my favorite bands has an album, which isn't a good album because it's one of their early ones, but it's called Speak and Spell. And there was the toy called Speak and Spell. And I believe that words are powerful and maybe even a form of magic.
Sure.
And it must, but it could just be the way the words affect our psychology, or it could be magic. But
it could be magic.
I don't tend to believe that the magic we talk about in this world, or the things we put in movies, or the things we condemn if it's against our religion, is quite the magic that really exists. I think it's a little more just not understandable. We don't see it. We don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Like we in various religions, so don't think I'm just picking on Christianity, because a lot of religions will persecute people that they don't quite agree with. And does that mean that they're evil, they're witches, whatever? I mean, maybe
yes,
not.
No.
Do they have the effect that these varying forms of belief say they do? I don't think so.
There's only one way to find out. Trial and error.
Date a witch.
Hey, that sounds like a good time, but also the worst time of my life if it goes badly. So,
well,
and actually, you know what? I think
you're
I
married.
Have. No, I have dated a witch in the past.
Whatever, man. You believe everybody's a witch.
Well, yeah, but beside that,
do they have a Ouija board?
She had used a Ouija board.
I mean, we've all used a Ouija board.
No, and maybe it wasn't her. I think it was her mother. But they also claimed Christianity, but they were like one of those Christians that, we also do this. And I'm like, okay, that's not Christianity, you ding-dong. But I
think all American Christians are like that. So I'm not impressed with
that's
them.
You casting a pretty wide net and being completely wrong, turns out.
I think there's problems. I think American Christianity is different than the original.
Well, yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
If anything,
it's worse.
I mean, everyone thinks that Christianity is a white man's religion, but it was in Africa way before it came here. So it's very far from a white man's religion. So anyone that talks about Jesus being white and all that shit, hey, sorry, rude awakening coming for you.
I mean,
but that's not why we're here. We're not here to talk about the ethnicity of our Lord and Savior.
Who cares? That's not the message.
The message is, hey, I'm not white. That would be a really weird message. And people would probably cling to that too. Be like, hey, he's not white. Cool. Let's get into a story about healing magic. Yeah, it's not evil, Christian. Sometimes there's weird things that happen with it as well. They could be viewed as good. Depends on who you ask, though.
Most of it, though, is good.
Okie doke. This is called Healing Magic, and it's by Silho X.
I'll be the judge of that.
Well, you are the judge of pretty much everything on this show, it turns out, because you're a very judgmental person, but that's fine. So when I was a teenager, I started practicing Buddhism, or at least what I thought was Buddhism, as I never went to a temple.
That's not witchcraft. Keep going. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. Just read books and whatever I found on the net. Well, at this point, I believed in the possibility of magic. I wanted to be a healer, so I looked up whatever I could find about healing magic. I actually don't remember what I read. Classic. I know I used terms like Tibetan and Shaolin and even Druid rather than black magic or occult.
I mean, this sounds like the guy
This
that
is a
started.
horrible idea.
This sounds like the guy that started the show.
No, I think this sounds like someone who is into something with zero knowledge of what they're doing, and so they just start typing words, and that's a dangerous path to go down. You need to first and foremost get some knowledge under your belt on things before you start looking into how to cast spells and whatnot.
Shaolin, and what was the other one?
There's Druid, Tibetan.
Okay, Shaolin and Tibetan are at least close to each other, but
Sure.
Druid's not
Druid
even
is-
close.
yeah, vastly.
That's Western world.
I know, rather than black magic or occult. One of the things I learned was the need for long spans of deep meditation. So after school, I would often meditate for 30 minutes to 2 or 3 hours.
The Tibetans wouldn't be impressed.
I did feel things. I did feel different. I even felt at some point that I had ascended to a higher meditative ability.
That's drugs.
That might be your mind, your mind's eye. However,
This is your mind on drugs.
yes. However, I only practiced healing magic once, and the result is worth mentioning. I died. No. The event begins with my then girlfriend being very sick. I don't know with what, but very sick. High temp, pretty sure she was throwing up, but she was stuck in bed for a few days, so it was rough.
It's the flu.
That sounds like a pretty accurate description. Anyways, I told her I wanted to try and help her. Try to remove the negative energy, purify it, and send it back. Wow. I sat and meditated as I believed I basically needed to charge up. Very granola-y in nature. I meditated for literally between 4 and 6 hours. Might have fallen asleep.
It happens.
I fell asleep for 4 to 6 hours in a meditation, no doubt. I began the procedure, which is to trace the body without touching it. The right hand ahead of the left. The right pulls out the negative energy. The energy is purified within the body and sent back through the left. Read this somewhere. That's what you want. Yeah, I just read this on the internet somewhere, so let's do it.
I'm an internet witch.
Hell yeah. Here's where things get weird. I was about half done and I accidentally touched her forearm with my thumb. The result was a blue, thick arc of static leapt from my thumb and shocked her. She screamed like she had been pinched. A little over dramatic, if you ask me. I apologized, of course, but we soon noticed she had a sooty burn mark on her forearm and another near her thumb where the electricity exited her body. She retained that mark for quite a while, but that's not the end of it. That night, minutes after the shock, she asked me for a glass of water. I left the room to cross the living room to get into the kitchen. As I passed under the dome light fixture in the living room, the light bulb inside literally explodes and the light goes out. I still got the water. Attaboy. The next day, her mom confirmed that the bolt had indeed completely shattered inside the dome. Strangely enough, my girlfriend was completely better the next day. I never practiced healing magic again because I decided I had gotten lucky and that I probably could have hurt her. Weird.
You couldn't have.
What do you think about I mean, look, for the electricity part, like it's not like you're dragging your fingers on the carpet or anything like that, so that's kind of weird. But then you add in this light bulb shattering as you're walking underneath it. I don't know. What do you think that could be? Just like a random coincidence that happened? I have a hard time grasping that.
I think the light bulb could be. The electricity is just static electricity.
Sure.
That one's easy.
But your hands literally aren't moving anywhere to gain that. Like it's just hovering above.
Are you standing on the floor?
Are you in socks? Are we going to go down?
Did you pick? I mean, there's that part. There's a lot. We can't just. That one's a simple explanation.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably static electricity.
That may be, but what about the light bulb? Again, you think that's a coincidence, but see, it's easy for you to say coincidence because there's no other rational explanation as to why something like that would happen. In the middle of some kind of weird, magic ritual going on, there's zero explanation for that happening.
Yeah.
And granted, even if it was just the flu being better the next day, that could be a coincidence, sure. But I don't know, everything together, it is hard to, it stacks up in a way where you're like, well, I don't know.
I think light bulbs explode all the time. It's not magical.
They do not. It is not a constant. That is such a wild
Not as
take.
much lately, but in the past it has been. And
I've never seen one single light bulb explode in my life. Not one. unless it was hit with something. It doesn't happen just willy-nilly. I mean, I guess sometimes it does. Occasionally, I will give you occasionally.
I feel like
willy-nilly.
I've seen it happen.
You feel like that, but you can't pull any like particular,
I feel like it happened a lot more when I was younger, which would make a little bit more sense back then.
Because you were so powerful and you didn't know how to control it.
Well, I mean, I'm still powerful.
Wow. Here we go.
I just feel like it's something that could happen. Okay, let's say this person healed his girl with this shit he read about online.
Randomly online, yes.
Yeah. The left hand or the right hand expels the bad energy, and the left hand adds the good energy.
It's like you purify it. Number one, in your body. That's kind of weird take, but I don't know, man. And maybe like just because we're not familiar with this, maybe we're even just picturing it wrong. And that's why I ask, if there are people out there that understand what we're talking about, comment, just let me know. Say, oh no, you didn't fully picture this properly. What he was actually doing is this or blah, blah, blah. But I just want to understand it. So if you are familiar with what is going on in this, like I said, we have a handful of witches that listen to this show. If you are out there and you're like, these guys kind of swung and missed on that, just comment it somewhere. Let me know. Don't put a hex on Christian. He doesn't need that. All right. He doesn't need that. Be good.
Yeah, I don't need that. I forgot what I was going to say, but I had
They already did it. Damn it. They put a hex on you. What did I just say? Ladies, gentlemen, warlocks, witches. What are you doing out there? Okay. All is forgiven.
I feel like
we're supposed to start.
As it was mentioned in the story a little bit. And as you mentioned, you really, if you don't know what you're doing, don't mess around with the simple stuff. You could screw things up.
Yeah, we don't
know.
Find out.
Yeah, we don't know what we're capable of as humans. If there's witchcraft, then we all are able to practice it in some form or another, and we all probably do.
It really do
like we
that.
said, with the words we say to ourselves and others.
So I'm gonna into this next section. I actually have you heard of a book called Real Magic?
I have.
By Dean Radin.
Sounds familiar.
PhD. I'm gonna, for anyone that might be interested in the scientific aspect of this,
in quotes, right? Scientific in quotes.
I want to say it's maybe parapsychology. Is that what they call it? Where it's kind of like it's a scientific approach, but you're also like, I want to believe in the weird shit.
Yeah,
I believe it's. But yeah, if this topic is somewhat interesting to you and you want to learn more about it outside of two weirdos in a garage, I would actually recommend this book because it's pretty fascinating. But so I'm going to give just a brief synopsis of it and what Dean has come across.
I feel like this is kind of an old book, like 60s, 70s.
It's in Real Magic. In Real Magic, Dr. Dean Radin, I'm going to say Radin because I feel like that's probably it, redefines magic not as fantasy, but as a natural extension of consciousness. He dives into how ancient societies saw magic as a real way to interact with the world and suggests that these traditions might hold insights into powers of the mind we've overlooked. The book explores three main types of magic: force of will, or using thought to influence reality; divination, accessing knowledge beyond our senses; and theurgy.
What?
Is theurgy or is it theurgy? Theurgy.
I'm not
theurgy?
Not familiar with that one. This book was written in 2018. I was wrong.
Fairly recent. Wow, I thought it was older than that. Theurgy. Theurgy? Who knows? Again, please correct me, which is connecting with the divine. Radin doesn't treat these as wild ideas, but as early ways of understanding how consciousness might actually shape the world. Using his background in, look at that, parapsychology, he shares experiments on things like telepathy and remote viewing, where people seem to influence or access information without physical means. He even ties these ideas to quantum physics, and we're back to quantum physics.
No, we were on quantum mechanics earlier.
Okay, yeah, totally different. Anyway, hinting that phenomena like entanglement, where particles remain connected across distances, that is actually really fascinating stuff, might be similar to how our minds connect to reality. It's not proof, but it's a theory that challenges conventional boundaries. The book also touches on meditation and intention setting, suggesting that these might be practical ways of focusing our minds to influence outcomes, even subtly. Radin argues that science and magic don't have to be at odds. Instead, he encourages curiosity, suggesting that keeping an open mind might lead to discoveries about consciousness we haven't yet tapped into. At the heart of Real Magic is the idea that science doesn't have all the answers yet. Radin doesn't push readers to believe blindly, but invites them to explore and wonder. To him, the real magic lies in the possibility that our minds could play a bigger role in shaping our reality than we ever thought. So that seems like something that you would be super into, because it's really more study of the mind's power.
Well, the consciousness makes a lot more sense, and the interconnectedness of our consciousness makes a little bit more sense than, all the stuff we normally talk about.
Yeah.
Or all the stuff we normally talk about on the show could be connected to consciousness. And I mean, that's been spoken about for many years.
And it's even something that we've talked about here. Like, I feel like you and I, it's hard to explain really, but we've talked about that there should be like a marriage between the two. Like, it's not like, even like that was said, they're not at odds against each other. You're looking at the exact same thing from two different lenses. Once you examine it and you figure out what it is, then both sides have been confirmed.
It's like that meme where you're looking at
Spider-Man?
No, the pictures, and it says, tell me the difference in these pictures, and they're like, it's the same picture.
Yeah.
It's just different perspective, different beliefs coming at it. But with all the stuff we talk about, the connectiveness of the consciousness, and that it connected at all times somewhere else to each other, and we can access it, makes a little bit more sense than this magical demonic thing that we...
Well, see, that's where you're getting off track a little bit, and you're also incorrect. I think those two can live together as well.
The magical demons?
Not the magical demons, just let's say dimensional beings could be what we see as demonic, right?
Right. There could be something, there could be old entities that roam the earth from before we were part of the earth.
Yeah.
That we now call demons in certain cases.
And see, I throw that theory out there, not even believing it. I don't believe it. And I mean, I guess it could technically be a dimensional thing, but I believe in what we call demons, right?
Well, I mean,
but all of these things could be explained. And again, it's like that marriage of both worlds, where when you get science finally, quote unquote, explaining something, you're not disproving the paranormal. You're actually proving it scientifically.
Hopefully.
But
hopefully.
See, yeah. And
hopefully that's where we'll get.
It's just a weird world to live in, because you have people like fighting about this, and you're like, no. Hey, we're actually talking about the same fucking thing. We just have different ideas of what it is.
I feel it's a daily occurrence that I feel that that's what us humans are doing all the time. Classic. About everything.
It's classic
Dodgers
stuff.
And Yankees. It's still baseball.
You don't know that. You can't prove that now.
Well, not what the Yankees did on the game they lost. But
wow, still talking about it. It's been a week. Anyway.
It's been more than a week. We're in December.
Wow. It's been so many weeks. I'm talking about since you last talked about it, which was a week ago.
Oh, okay. It's a big thing to me. I was
I can see that.
Big baseball fan growing up.
I can see that. You left last week, had a whole week to think about things, came back with baseball again.
Nobody even knew I left.
Nobody even had any idea. It's almost like you've been here the entire time, and we recorded twice. But
I went to another state.
That is true. Yeah, you were out of here.
Almost went to a graveyard, but it was raining that day.
I drove past a graveyard.
This was the graveyard.
Is this the ancient one you talked about?
This one's not that ancient, but I have a video from this graveyard from last year that I hopefully already put up, because
probably not.
In the recent past, we had an episode about graveyards. I feel like.
I honestly don't even know anymore, dude.
It's been a weird.
Yeah, we have so many. We're so far ahead at this point that it's people are going to be commenting on episodes, and I'm just going to have to like nod along. Like, yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, and it's been a weird couple weeks too. But I feel like we had an episode that I remember. I had to pull this video out because I meant to post it, but I swear to God, it looks like the squirrel's playing with a ghost.
R.I.P. P'Nut. Good old P'Nut.
Who's P'Nut?
In the arms. You have been away. You don't remember that story? You know who P'Nut is. It's recent.
I would know it if you said it, but
it was a squirrel that this guy in New York had a squirrel, and the government came in and killed it. And the uproar was beautiful.
Oh, I remember. I have
trained squirrel for like 7 years. He had this thing, and then the government in New York was like, "Nah, fuck that." They took his squirrel and they took his raccoon pets and they killed him. And the world was not okay with that.
I'm kind of not okay with that.
It's pretty fucked up, man. Honestly, if you watch the videos, that was the cutest squirrel in the world, man. Doing all kinds of things. That squirrel loved that man, and I stand by that. Anyway,
there's no proof that animals love us. Sorry, guys.
Damn it. Now this? Magic's not real, and now this?
I disagree. Dogs love us.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Some cats.
Flip-flop in, but...
Some cats.
Most cats just want to eat us, but it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and get into another story here, and it's called Reflection in Nail Polish. Weird. Man, some of these magic rituals are the strangest things I've ever heard, and I swear I've never heard the same one twice, but they all work. Weird. This one has to take the cake for it, and it's by Shane Slamet.
What's the last name?
Slamet.
That's weird.
Or Slamet. That'd be a weird name. Or Slame. Maybe Slame. Who knows? Says when I was very young, I was in Indonesia too. So When I was very young, my parents and I lived in Bali, Indonesia. Our home was nothing to look at, just a dilapidated shack, really, but at least it was very close to the beach. Excuse me. But at least it was very close to the beach.
That is, especially in Bali. They have nice beaches.
Hell yeah. One evening, while we were all out, our house got robbed. We didn't have much of value, appliances, some cash, and cheap jewelry. But it meant a lot to us at the time. Nobody saw anything, and the local police weren't much help either. Without any further clues to go on, the locals recommended we visit our local Balian, which is, or maybe it's Balian, but it's a medicine man healer. My father was a stubborn pragmatist who dismissed this idea as superstition, but my mother was a bit more open-minded and decided to consult with him. The Balian brought her into a darkened room filled with incense, and a small boy was led into the room. The Balian chanted and conducted a brief ritual, during which he painted the child's fingernails with black nail polish. My mother was invited to gaze into the shiny painted fingernail, and to this day she swears she saw a reflection in the fingernail, an open doorway with light spilling out, and the silhouette of a man. As it happens, she recognized this man as an acquaintance of ours. The next day, my father spoke to this acquaintance and discovered that he had, in fact, stolen our belongings and sold them for drug money. A magic spell had solved the crime.
Oh.
It wasn't the first time we encountered magical or supernatural happenings in Bali, and it wouldn't be the last. So the weird thing about this is further into that, because he went on for a little bit longer, but he says he doesn't even believe in any of this shit. He's like, I don't believe in like the spiritualism, all that shit. He's like, my mom to this day still believes that she saw the reflection of this guy in this kid's fingernail, and it happened to be the guy that stole his shit.
First off, moms are old,
wow,
so they don't have
great soundbite,
the great vision that it would take to see the reflection of someone in a child's painted fingernails.
But what are the odds that whatever the old crappy, weird vision that this mom had in that fingernail, and a fingernail is a child's fingernail, even much tinier, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but seeing any kind of reflection whatsoever, and what you see is not what's in the room. You see an open doorway and the silhouette of a man. And then when you look, you're like, that man actually looks familiar. And then the father out of the blue the next day is like, hey, I'm going to go confront this acquaintance of ours. And it turns out that guy stole all your shit. Are you telling me that's the biggest coincidence on earth, man?
This is not a coincidence. The fact that she saw this, in her mind, she saw this person's reflection, and the dad's like, hey, did you steal my crap the next day? Tells me this was somebody familiar with them, and somebody if they didn't outwardly suspect, might have had a good reason to suspect.
Christian.
Let's talk to my friend who
just so happened to steal
who is
our
a
shit.
drug addict and is stolen from some of our other friends. Let's go talk to him, and then he confessed. That
Weird.
one's easy.
How
That
is
one's
that?
easy.
How is that easy, man? This woman saw this guy in a child's fingernail.
That subconsciously she probably already knew.
You can say subconsciously. You cannot prove subconsciously. All right, that
you can't
that's
prove she saw this guy in her nails either.
You don't need to, because she is the one that saw it.
Oh my god!
I don't need to prove. If she says, "Hey, I saw this dude," and turns out it looked a lot like this guy that we actually know. That's all. That's for me personally. That's all I need. Again, I am the man of common sense. All right. That's all I need to hear.
Or common opinions.
No, common sense, really.
Common sense. You can't ever use common sense on paranormal stuff.
Let me ask you something. Let's say you're standing at a back door, right? You're looking out a glass back door, and in it you see the reflection of someone standing behind you, right?
Okay.
You recognize that person. Do you have to turn around to know that it's that person? Or can you just be like, that kind of looks like my child?
I mean, that's easy because I'm looking out a back door. This is not looking at fingernails.
If anything, it's harder because a back door is clear and fingernail is painted black, glossy black.
Which tells you everything.
It's a black mirror, dude.
Obviously,
it's a black mirror.
Yeah, it's obviously evil.
It's not evil, but it is telling, right? Black mirrors have been used for scrying purposes and divination and all that shit. Oh yeah, you're mad that I threw ours out? Hey, sorry, man. My child keeps saying something's knocking on the shop door when he's in the kitchen alone, and it's scaring him. So the only thing I could think of outside of
good hearing.
No, he's got great hearing.
That's what I'm saying. He can hear the heater turn on.
Yes, he can.
And we don't have, or you don't have that kind of heater.
Oh, I do. I can hear it turn because the heater makes weird noises here, man. It's like
That's just the metal expanding.
Yeah. And so, yes, I threw out the black mirror. And as I threw it out, I was like, I should probably just give this to Christian. He'd probably put it on his desk or something. And it's I liked it. It looked pretty cool. It was a nice little thing to have, but that's beside the point. Yeah.
Such a scaredy cat.
Me or my son?
It's normal. He's at that age.
I am not a scaredy cat. I did that for my son. I wanted to keep it here. Actually, I did that because your daughter told me to.
Scaredy cat.
So if you want to blame someone, blame your scaredy cat daughter.
I'm going to blame fear like I always do.
Fear does not exist in this dojo. Anyway.
Is that Karate Kid?
It might be. To me, it's...
or Joe Rogan.
It could be both if you think about it. But no, I wonder if anyone out there will get this reference. There was a band, probably when I was like 15 years old, that was called Karate High School. And it was the weirdest mix of like 80s style, 8-bit type, odd, like arcade music mixed with like screaming and like pop music.
That doesn't sound very good.
No, it was the best, and I can't find it. I've looked for it since. But there was a song called Sweep the Leg, I think, and the opening of that was Fear Does Not Exist in This Dojo. Oh, man, I need to look further because that band was such an awesome band. Watch, I'd listen back to it now. I'm like, it's kind of shitty.
I do that sometimes.
But back then, I was like, hell yeah, man, Karate High School.
Dude, I just heard something. You know the band Jars of Clay, right?
Hell yeah.
Somebody called them Christian Creed.
Kind of.
I was like dying.
Kind of, but they actually make like poppin' songs, you know?
Yeah, much better than Creed.
Well, that's not hard. Sorry, Jose. But
it's no puddle of mud, though.
Jars of clay, puddles of mud, lots of stuff going on. Anyway, I got a word from a 3rd degree Celtic Wiccan witch here that I'd like to get into.
Okay.
Says, I am a 3rd degree Celtic Wiccan witch.
Is this like, I didn't know they were Masonic now.
It kind of has that vibe, right? Wiccan witch and priest, and I often cast spells. Sometimes I cast binding spells to prevent certain individuals from causing harm to others. Other times I cast spells of blessing to those in danger, traveling, ill health, childbirth, or family difficulty. In rare cases, I invoke the Buddhist goddess Lakshmi. Lakshmi?
Lakshmi, I think, is closer. I could be wrong, though.
Hey, we're both probably wrong, and that's fine. To judge a person's karma and serve unto them her judgment and their just deserts. In the here and now.
Which religion did that come from?
Buddhist, at least according to this.
I felt like Lakshmi would be more to Hindu, but I could be wrong.
This is a 3rd degree Wiccan witch, Kristen. How dare you? Celtic Wiccan witch? Lakshmi.
I'm going to find out for you.
Okay. Says, and yes, these spells most always work. However, I am impotent in blessing my lottery tickets to be winners. This demonstrates the ethics of the Wiccan, and this is a word that I'm going to need help from our Wiccan audience. Read, R-E-D-E, the Wiccan,
Rita? I don't know. Lakshmi is a prominent goddess in Hinduism associated with wealth, prosperity, and fortune. She is believed to have emerged from the churning ocean, where she appeared along with other divine treasures. I won't keep going, but
Congratulations to Lakshmi.
I'm a little worried about our Celtic Wiccan here, though.
I know, yeah. Falling apart pretty quickly there, lady, or sir. I think it might be a sir, actually.
It's okay to get those things wrong. There's a lot of gods and goddesses in this world.
That is true. And certain ones sound very familiar and similar to other ones. Interesting. Anyway, the Wiccan, R-E-D-E, someone help me out with the pronunciation, which says in part, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Oh, you know what that is, right?
That's LaVeyan? Satanism?
Crowley.
Oh, yes, of course.
And Jack Parson.
Yes, of course, your favorite. You see, my magic will never interfere with that person who is destined to win the lottery just so I might benefit.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
If you desire to find a witch to cast a spell for you, you might try the search tool at, I'm not going to give the website away.
Why not?
Because I'm not trying to lead our listening audience astray. Anyway, however, I, as a Celtic Wiccan witch, refuse to cast a spell for anyone I don't know or can't meet in person and interview. You see, real modern witches are nothing like the old stories and cartoons. We are folks of power and folks of ethics. So you see, if your need for a spell is not an ethical one, then the only people who will help you are unethical in nature. Good luck and blessed be. So, getting into that briefly, and what was mentioned in that is kind of my issue with a lot of witchcraft. People that, you're like, there's black magic and there's white magic, and there's people that are good and they do good and all this, but at the base of it, when you're doing these spells, and kind of like what was said there, where it's like, I'm not going to steal someone else's lottery tickets so that I can have the winning numbers. It's not ethical. Any of these spells that you cast, I believe that you can actually do these things. There's money spells, prosperity spells, relationship spells, all those things, right? And if you cast those, nothing can be created, right? So you're actually taking it from what is already in the world. And if you're taking a money spell, for instance, you don't know who you're taking that money from. It could be someone that's already suffering, someone that needs that money more than you. It's a selfish thing to do when you're casting spells. And I feel like even if you think you're a good witch, regardless of what spell you're casting, you are taking it from someone and you don't know who you're taking it from. You can assume and just in your mind be like, oh, I'm taking it from a rich person. It's fine. But you don't actually know. But in reality, like, it's not like you can just conjure these things into existence. This stuff is already in the world. It already exists. So you're taking it from someone. And at the basis of that, that is a selfish act. And that's why I think there's no such thing, regardless of who you are or what you practice, as good witchcraft, because the basis of it is selfish in nature. And like I said, I love witches. I don't have any problem with the people. I think that they're confused as to what they're doing, possibly. And that's, again, my own like perspective on things. But I don't have any ill will towards them. I'm not like, hey, we need to burn them at the stake. No, I think they're great people. I think most of the times they think they're doing good. But in the reality, if you look down at that, just the base level of everything, witchcraft is conjuring, and you're conjuring from something in existence already. So that's why I always tell people, I don't want to insult you. I'm not trying to hurt you or like make you feel like, oh, I'm some high and mighty Christian. I'm not that dude. I'm honestly just saying this is my perspective and this is how I view things. I don't think bad of you because you have a different perspective than me, but I think that, it is what it is.
You can't do a spell and take somebody else's money.
But you can.
You can't do a spell and take somebody else's soul.
Well, I'm not. Who said soul?
You can't take a spell, or you can't do a spell and harm other people.
But you can.
But you can't.
But it's been proven.
Has it?
Yeah, by people that actually, witches, hey, speak up, all right? This is what I say. Christian gets on his pedestal and he makes it seem like he's on your side, but he doesn't even believe in the things that you believe in. He doesn't believe that what you're doing is actually tangible, that it's actually real. And so this is,
I don't believe it is like our storybook witchcraft.
It
Intentions, constant consciousness, putting something positive out in the world and having positive things happen, putting something negative out in the world, negative, you're just going to draw it back to you. That is
often the case with these. Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily have to be witchcraft. That's just, as you would say, common sense. If you put negativity,
I think people call it karma, not common sense. But
okay, fine, karma. Use whatever word you want.
By the way, kind of witchcraft.
But if you, whatever, you're coming from a perspective,
yes,
where that is kind of the party line, which is fine. I'm just not going to be one that persecutes people because they believe they're
and that's fine.
Doing witchcraft.
I'm not persecuting people either.
I believe if witchcraft is possible, then most of us have a protection spell given to us by maybe God.
Kind of sacrilege calling it a protection spell from God, but
wouldn't there be a level of protection from a God that loves us?
I think what the confusion here is that you're taking God, which is, in my opinion, real magic, like magic, quote unquote. I'm saying that not as it's actually magic, but like what you have the truth, and then you have a fabrication, right? And so the truth is God has the power to speak things into existence, to literally create from nothingness. Witches and the dark arts or whatever, just to sum it up in that way, do not have the power to create nothing from nothingness. So what they're doing, again, selfish in nature. You think you're doing good. You think you're creating this money. Oh, finally, someone got poor so that person could have that money. That's plain and simple. You do not have the power to create out of nothingness. That is an all-powerful, almighty being that has that ability. And it's been proven in my eyes, not yours.
Whose image are we made in?
God's.
Okay. So we could speak things into existence. We have that magic in us.
God created us.
We have that magic then.
We have the access to what is known as the Holy Spirit, Christian. And I'm not going to go into an entire thing on the religious beliefs.
I think it's funny that people that have a belief in that don't like it mentioned as magic. And to me, it's kind of weird.
It's not magic.
It kind of is.
It's not. You're calling God magic? That's weird. God is an all-powerful creating being, right?
Yeah.
And outside of time, space, everything. That is not magic. That is
with us
higher.
furless monkeys, that is magic, because we can't do that. We can't do any of that stuff. That's magic. We can't prove how it's done. We can't measure how it's done. We can't show how it's done. Sure. We have to believe in it. And that doesn't mean that we're wrong, but it's a form of magic because we cannot figure it out at this point. Hopefully we will, but
no,
I'm not convinced humans.
You can't understand the ways of God. It is outside of space time.
Well, the whole point is you never can. So,
but you can't understand the ways of witchcraft.
No.
Yeah, you can, just by looking into it and following it.
And reading on the internet, like one of our earlier stories.
Not even on the internet. There's plenty of resources out there. You can go back and look at the different like sects of Wicca and stuff like that, and the original religion that dates back however long. And there's different things you can look at and actually be like, I understand this, and this is what they do. These are the rituals they do, blah, blah, blah. But everything is a fabrication, or like it's just a lie. Like, to me, it's a lie. If I know the truth and what I consider the truth, I'll put that out there. Then anything after that is what I keep saying, fabrication, but I'm thinking of a different F word. I think not fraudulent,
farcical.
No, it's like a
Parpet-Nugan.
It's like a ripoff kind of. I'm not going to get it, but yeah. And so I think people believe that they're doing good, and that's why I have no like ill will towards them. I'm not hating them. I'm being like, we need to kill them all. Like, no, I'm not that person. I just think that if you do this long enough, you open your eyes that maybe you're not doing good when someone comes to you for like a money spell, or they come to you for a love spell, like all that stuff, you're taking people's powers away from them.
I feel like all those things that you just mentioned, things that people go to witches for, are the same things people through history have gone to church for.
Well, then you need to broaden your horizons.
And in a lot of cases, prayer is very, what was the word you used earlier for witchcraft? We just talked about it. Selfish.
A lot of prayer is selfish.
Yeah.
But and I actually talked to one of our listeners, Melanie. Shout out Melanie. I mentioned on an episode a while back that I found a video breakdown of like how you should really pray, and it's not the way that everyone prays, and it's completely an unselfish thing where you are trying to connect with the creator of the universe, and it takes time, and it's not just something you can just be like, dear God, thank you, and please give me money, I'm broke. Amen. That's not prayer. And that is a selfish prayer. And that's why a lot of those prayers don't get answered. But there's another kind of prayer where you're actually trying to connect. And you're trying to be like, this is my desire, but your desire above my own. Because if my desires are selfish, then why would I ask you to? You are the one to understand everything, not me. And when I pray like that, like if I actually have time, which requires like 20 minutes, then I actually do feel it. And it's wild. And I sent it to Melanie, and she enjoyed it too. And she's like, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm like, fuck yeah. It's a really great way to pray. You're right. A lot of people are selfish with it.
Do you want to hear a fun fact about me?
Sure.
I pray.
All the time?
A good amount.
Pray, but like in what way? Like
I'm
just like speaking out to the universe?
I'm just basically asking for strength and understanding. That's about as far as I go with it. Yeah. Because I think that's
not selfish at all.
No, it's just like, I don't know the reason I'm going down a path or things are happening. I'm like, just give me some strength and understanding and I'll be okay.
Wisdom.
I mean, that's kind of understanding, kind of the same thing.
Yeah, that's great. I'm proud of you, Christian. Good job. And you may not pray to, but that's honestly a lot of people that become Christians when they give their testimony or whatever. Like there's one person I can think of in particular where he was like, I got to the point, like I tried shamanism, I tried all these different things, and I still felt like emptiness. And so I cried out, not knowing who I was crying out to. I said, I don't know what the real higher power is, but I'm crying out to that higher power, reveal yourself to me. And that's it. And then he said at that point, that was it. That's all it took.
That's where
you don't have to know what it is, but if you ask, that door will be open to you.
One of the things, and we talk about Christianity a lot because we live in a Western country.
We do, even though we already said it's not a Western religion.
I just feel like, especially Christianity has been notorious for it, but it's not the only religion. It's like, this is the only way. And I'm like, you can't say that because not everybody has access to that way. So there's got to be different ways. And there's got to be an understanding from that higher power that this person in Tibet or Siberia or some other part of the world is not going to have access to that, and that's okay.
I think everyone has access to everything at this point. I think it's very easy to get access to.
But this is just this is like 100 years.
Sure.
If not even that, probably 20 years where everybody has the potential to access this stuff. But before then, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I
understand like that reasoning, but I would encourage you to see the actual map of where the gospel spread. And you'll see that pretty much
China?
the ends of the world. Like these people set out 2 destinations all over the world.
So did Islam.
Sure, yeah, and that's why a lot of people know about Islam.
Yeah, and
so I'm saying like there's ways even before the internet, all that shit, that the word got out.
There's just not one path.
Sure,
that's all I'm saying, and that is just a personal opinion.
And that's fine, Christian.
And we would be more enlightened and happier people if we, as a group of humans, let everybody find their path, even if it's witchcraft.
Sure. I have to close this out because your daughter's going to murder me if I don't. I did miss a couple stories, unfortunately, but we'll find a way to get them out there at some point. Anyways, I came here today with one goal: to prove that magic is real, because it is. If you're still not convinced by today's episode, I will attempt one final Hail Mary argument. And here we go. The entire universe is made up of atoms. Yes?
Maybe some Eves. Oh, different
Hilarious.
atoms.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
The entire universe is made up of atoms. They're all the exact same thing. Yet some atoms make Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and some atoms make macaroni. Some atoms make humans, and those atoms make conversations. They make friends, they get married, they experience heartbreak, they experience the cold, clammy hands of death. Then some atoms make a mountain, and some atoms make a slice of cheese. I am just a shit ton of atoms forming speech at another shit ton of atoms. How is that anything but magic? Magic is real. Boom. Did it. You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone. Yay.
I'll let you lead with that, but
that's it. Think about it, everyone. If we're all atoms, we're the exact same tiny particles or whatever, how is everything different? You know?
So the Supreme Being would control these atoms that are magical using magic.
Sure. Why not?
Of the word.
Okie dokie. Christian, I got to make sure you sign that can of beans before you take off. And folks, we'll see you right back here next week. I don't know, you hear that sigh? Christian, that's making you famous, slowly but surely. You should be very excited about that. People want you to autograph cans of beans.
I mean, it's cool. It's just, I just got to get used to
the bright lights.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got to get going. We'll see you next week, which is the Christmas episode, I suppose. So, Merry Christmas next week. Until then, we'll see you then. Well, that didn't make sense. Goodbye.
Stalking by your window, dogman is scratching at your door. Ghosties are walking up and down your halls at night, and the hat man is coming back for more. Your name is Christian, you love a can of beans, and you're the wettest blanket skeptic this world has ever seen. You're almost always wrong, it's quite an impressive streaky. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the freaky deaky. Your name is Christian, you're named ironically, because the only belief you have can be found in a can of beans. You're almost never right, and now you get roasted weekly. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the freaky deaky. Also ghosts exist, just an FYI. Aliens are feeling blue. The Ouija demon's lonely because they believe in you.